This is the Emilia-Romagna section of north central Italy. A quiet place ordinarily. Grapes are grown here, cattle are raised, and there's some industry. But once a year, the population multiplies for the annual running of the Grand Prix of the Republic of San Marino at the Dino Ferrari Autodrome in Imola. Imola is only 35 miles from the home of Ferrari, and Ferrari in Italy is a magic name. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Economaki, who'll be bringing you the action today, along with my colleague David Hobbs, a two-time racing champion. David, this is round 2 of the World Driving Championship. How much different will it be than round 1 we saw in Rio?
Well, of course, one major difference is in the circuits. This, like Rio, is counterclockwise, but unlike Rio, it has quite a bit of elevation change. And even with 4 slow corners, at some parts of this track, these Formula One cars get up to just on 200 miles an hour. Now, the field here is very tightly packed. There's only 4 seconds cover the majority of this field. But unfortunately for that majority, there is a small minority on the front row. The 2 McLaren Hondas of Senna and Prost, Senna on his 4th pole position here at Imola, are nearly 3 seconds quicker than the rest of the field, which must be pretty discouraging. However, fuel economy always plays a part in this race, and that fuel economy may play against those 2 front runners. With more on that story, we go down to John Bisignano in the pits.
Thanks, David. A simple explanation of the fuel situation is this. If the turbocharged cars run at maximum horsepower, they will run out of fuel around this San Marino circuit. The team managers won't tell us exactly what they're reducing their power to, but it's right in the ballpark of what the normally aspirated cars are. They turn down the boost, and that reduces the horsepower, and it gives them the important extra fuel economy. This is what's going to determine the winner here in San Marino relative to the turbocharged cars. This is the engine management chip. Every team manager and engineer is trying to select the right one. They can't be changed during the race. They've got to get it right the first time. We'll be right back with the exciting drama of the Grand Prix of San Marino after this. Changing down here on the grid just before the start of the San Marino race. Only moments away, actually. Behind me, rather relaxed, is Eddie Cheever and his lovely wife, Rita, standing next to the car. Very relaxed for this situation. Why? Is because he has no mechanical problems whatsoever all weekend long. That USF&G Aeros has been running perfectly. Next to Eddie, on a staggered grid, that is, Riccardo Patrese, the gentleman who has come into the Williams team this year for the first time. He actually filled in at the end of last season when Nigel Mansell was injured, but this is his first full season in the Williams organization. Out of the car, up against the pit wall. The report from the Williams team, the Cannon Williams team, is that everything is all right, but they are a little bit concerned about the fuel consumption. Of course, their Honda-powered car during the qualifying session, very quick, but will they have enough fuel to go the distance? We won't know. Gerhard Berger, the sole Ferrari in the top 10. Every fan here is hoping that Gerhard Berger and the red cars from Maranello are going to be not only victorious, but a 1-2 victory here. Today, that's a little bit optimistic. Right at the front of the grid, Gerhard did report that there were no problems with the Ferrari in warm-up or even in the final warm-up laps here. His teammate has had to change engines, though, a little bit disturbing for someone who's about to go out and start a home Grand Prix. Nannini, the first normally aspirated engine in the Benetton car. Everyone thinks that this particular vehicle is going to do very well if things turn to rain, which we have had light sprinkles here only moments before the start. Of course, the 2 McLarens into a class of their own. We have the Alain Prost, the 3-time world champion, the only man who he can really race with at this particular circuit, Ayrton Senna, pole position. Mr. Senna is looking for a win in San Marino.
Thank you, John. Let's see how this field of 26 is going to take the starting line. On the pole is Ayrton Senna with an 18th pole position of his career that moves him into a 3-way tie for 5th on the all-time list with Mario Andretti and Rene Arnoux. His qualifying speed, 129.368 miles an hour. Alongside his Marlboro McLaren Honda teammate Alain Prost of France. Then it's world driving champion Nelson Piquet of Brazil in a Camel Lotus Honda, followed by sensational Italian driver Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton Ford, the first non-turbo to make the lineup. Then it's Gerhard Berger of Austria in his turbo Ferrari. Riccardo Patrese of Italy in the Williams Judd, the non-turbo. Then it's American Eddie Cheever in the USF&G Aeros Megatron, a turbo car. Then Terry Boutsen of Belgium in the Benetton Ford, another non-turbo. Ivan Capelli of Italy is next in the Leighton House March Judd, a non-turbo. Then it's Michele Alboreto in his turbo Ferrari. Britisher Nigel Mansell is next in a Williams Judd, no turbo on this car, and Japanese driver Satoru Nakajima in a Camel Lotus Honda turbo car. Philippe Streff of France in the AGS Ford, a non-turbo, Derek Warwick of Britain in the USF&G Aeros Megatron, a turbo car. And the last dozen, Philippe Ayau Lola, Andrea de Cesaris Real, Gabriel Tarquini Coloni, Luis Perez Sala Minardi, Yannick Dalmas Lola, Mauricio Gugelman March, Julian Bailey Tyrrell, Adrian Campos Minardi, Jonathan Palmer Tyrrell, Alessandro Capi Dallara, Piercarlo Cinsani West, and Stefano Modena in a Eurobron. Make our field.
Well, there the field is pretty closely packed, as I said earlier, with the exception, of course, of that incredible front row, those Marlboro McLarens. What a display they put on yesterday afternoon. Can they do the same thing today on this very, very tricky circuit, set here in some wonderful countryside? The town of Imola itself is a very picturesque old city, about 60,000 inhabitants, set in wonderful countryside, and here we see the track, which is right downtown. As they cross the start-finish line, which is along the bottom there, just at the A of Bassa, they approach the Tamburello. As they get there, they slip it into 6th gear, and they enter that corner at about 165. But by the time they exit, they're up to close to 200, 89, 190 miles an hour. Round the Villeneuve, the right-hand sweep into the Tosa. The Tosa is a sharp left-hander, 2nd gear for most of these people. A lot of braking goes on into the Tosa, a lot of overtaking. It's one of the widest places here and easiest to overtake. Out of the Tosa, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, up a pretty steep hill into that Piratella, that sharp left-hander, which is a 4th gear corner for most of these cars. It's very quick. That 2nd apex is downhill now, very steeply downhill to the Acqua Minerale, which is a horrible little complex of a right, left, right chicane, very tight. Up to 5th gear again as they come up to the Varianti, what we'd call a chicane alta. That is the high chicane, another 2nd gear corner. Out of that, up to 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, down to that Rivasa, another downhill slope into that Rivasa, and then back to the pit lane. The vital statistics of the course, well, it's 3.12 miles around. There's 8 turns officially, 60 race laps, which is 187 miles, and they'll do about 1,400 gear shifts during this race on that track.
Well, David, we've got an uncertain day weather-wise. Friday it rained all day. It rained on and off yesterday, and now, though the sun is out and it looks like sunny Italy, there are some raindrops on the window of our telephone booth that passes for an announce booth here. It's 68 degrees, cloudy, the wind at 5 miles an hour, and if the rain can hold off, I think we're going to have a great day of racing. We'll be back for the start of the Republic of San Marino Grand Prix. To this.
Clear the grid now. Photographers, posters, off the grid, just working mechanics.
Here, myself, David Hobbs, and John Bisignano have made some picks, and here's how I think this race is going to finish. I think Alessandro Nannini and the normally aspirated Benetton Ford will be today's winner, thanks to fuel economy, with Ferrari-mounted Gerhard Berger second, the McLaren twins Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna third and fourth, Ferrari's Michele Alboreto fifth, and American Eddie Cheever sixth. David Hobbs, my colleague. David, how do you think they're going to go?
Well, I just think that the way things have gone in practice, that Prost and Senna are going to come first and second. I think the turbocharged power of the Ferrari plus the crowd egging him on is going to make Berger third, Nannini fourth, Boutsen fifth, and Piquet sixth.
And down the pitch, John Bisignano says Alain Prost will beat Nigel Mansell, Eddie Cheever, Nannini, Belgian Thierry Boutsen, and Nelson Piquet to the flag. And there we're on the record now as they come to the line, waiting for the light to change from red to green. The cars are not all in position yet. Round 2 of the World Driving Championship for the Formula One title. On the pole, Brazilian Ayrton Senna, the man who has won the pole position here for 4 straight years, but has never been able to win, and has only finished once. So that's not the best place to start if statistics mean anything.
Well, that's why I chose Prost to win the race, because poleman, for some reason or other, never wins this race. This must be a very trying time for that front row. They've been there some time, and as you can see, the cars are still lining up behind them. Watch for the red light in the top left-hand corner of the screen. That's what they're all watching for. 5 seconds after that, the green.
This is where the hearts beat, right, David?
Yeah, they certainly are beating now. Hands are really trembling as they go for that gear shift to put it into first gear.
It's an inter-team rivalry prevails in this front row. Senna, the Brazilian, and Prost, the world champion from France, 2-time world champion there. It's supposed to be all milk and honey between these two, but there's really a great rivalry. The red light is on, and there's the green, and the Republic of San Marino. And look at this. Senna had a problem with the start, and Alain Prost zoots to the front as the field funnels into turn 1.
As you see them going through that Tamburello turn, very, very fast. You get an idea there just how fast this corner is. It goes on for a long way as they stream down. That is, in fact, Ayrton Senna in the front. It must have been Alain Prost who didn't make such a good start. Senna goes around the Tosa, up the hill.
Well, look at the crowd waving. They call them the Tifosi here in Italy, and they're really rabid Ferrari fans. They'd be waving a lot stronger were it a Ferrari out front.
If they were Ferraris in front, they'd be going completely berserk. There we see Nelson Piquet made a good start, up to second place already. And there we see the field streaming through. There's Derek Warwick in the USF&G Arrow. Showing my age there a bit.
Back in the old days. Well, it's interesting. 24 gear changes per lap. This course calls for with a turbo.
Oh, there's a nudge there.
Little wheel wagging there.
Yeah, that was, I think that was Modena.
In the Euro run, right?
In his second race, and he nudged probably Bailey.
Okay, we're going to go back and show you the start again to see just what happened to one of those front row cars when the green light went on. There it is, the car on the left.
Oh, you see his head going there. He just got tagged by Patrese, who slipped out from behind him. I think he just touched his rear wheel.
Anyway, they're all off and running and well, and this race is underway. There's trying to complete lap number 1. Piquet in second place, and looks like Patrese third, and a normally aspirated Judd. Now, we talk about normally aspirated. Those of you listening, that means there's no turbocharger. In European racing, they call it atmospheric. And the Atmo is the short way to describe this as they come around to complete lap number 1 here at the Circuit Autodromo Dino Ferrari.
And already Senna making a big mark on this race, putting a lot of daylight between himself and his fellow countryman Nelson Piquet, the current world champion, driving another Honda-powered car, the Camel Lotus this time. And there's, that was Nannini, your pick, trying to get inside Patrese. They came into the Tosa. There at the back there we see Thierry Boutsen in the other Benetton car. These are very good normally aspirated chassis.
The talk up and down pit road in the paddock since practice ended yesterday has been fuel economy. A lot of stories, a lot of rumors, but I don't think anybody's going to run out of gas because of the new computerized controls they have in these cars. I think that fuel economy will determine who wins and who loses, because these drivers can look at their dashboard and see the readouts, and if they're using too much fuel, they just slow down. But to run out, I sort of doubt it myself.
Well, everybody seems to be saying that the McLaren Hondas have got a lot of problem with the fuel, where the Lotus Honda does not. Why that is, no one seems to know exactly. But everybody's saying that the McLaren cars here, shown leading, are going to have to slow up, but we'll just have to see.
I checked that out with Peter Ward, the team manager of Lotus, because of Nelson Piquet told us that the Lotuses were getting better fuel mileage than the McLarens, and they both have the same engine. And Ward said that at full tanks, they do get the same kind of fuel mileage, but he wouldn't say any further, and we drew the conclusion that as the cars get light, the Lotuses do better.
Well, that could be definitely a possibility.
So Senna leads with Piquet second, Riccardo Patrese is third, in car number 6. Nannini is fourth in number 19, the first of the normally aspirated cars, and then it's Ferrari's Gerhard Berger fifth in car 28, and Alain Prost, who had a bad start, is sixth in car number 11. Okay, they come around the turves here, and this race is underway in beautiful weather. We'll be back with more of the Republic of San Marino Grand Prix after this. Fans are watching Ayrton Senna with a big lead at this point in the San Marino Grand Prix. This is the second race of the World Championship for 1988. And as far as something old and something new, the Brabham cars, fixtures for years on the circuit, are no longer around. The BMW engine has been changed. It's now called a Megatron. But the Porsche TAG engine is gone. The Motori Moderni engine is gone. The Olivetti sponsor is gone, and Nigel Mansell's mustache is gone. Teo Fabi's not around, having chosen Indy cars, and Roberto Moreno, the young Brazilian, he's gone. Christian Danner is here, but he's too big to fit in one of these cars, so he's gone. And Martin Brundle has decided on a sports car career, and the Austrian Grand Prix is also gone. Now, for something new, are the cars from Euro Brun. The Real racing car, the one that had trouble at the start. The Team Dallara with Alex Caffey's new. Bernd Schneider, a rookie who has yet to qualify for a race, is new. Julian Bailey, the Briton who's in his first race today, he's new. And Brazilian Mauricio Gugelmin, a friend of Ayrton Senna, is new. And, of course, the Autodromo Nelson Piquet, the new name for the Rio circuit, is new. And Oscar Larawi, a gray-haired Formula One debutant, is new. He failed to qualify today. There we see Nelson Piquet in second, Ricardo Patrese in third, and Gerhard Berger in fourth. Ayrton Senna being out of the picture.
Berger and Prost are having a pretty good dust-up there, and I would think that Berger's about to take a place away from Patrese, which will make this Italian crowd go completely berserk, even though Patrese, of course, is an Italian. Patrese going very, very well in that normally aspirated Williams. It's a good car this year, and Nigel Mansell, I think, also went very well this morning in the warm-up, but it's not making his mark yet in this race.
They spread out to the point now where it's quite safe. And now we're watching Alain Prost making his move on the outside here. And, of course, that's not the way to do it, is it,
But he's
David?
going to make it on the inside now because he made Berger cut that corner tight. He's going to get him on the outside now on his right-hand sweep as they go up to the Piratella.
Oh, you know what you're talking about, don't you, David?
Well, he did a good job there. He faked him into closing the door on the inside, which gave him a freer, quicker run into the outside of the corner. He had a longer radius, and, of course, he nailed him on the hill. Clever little chap, that Prost.
David, you're learning some lessons. You're going to be in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Are you picking up any tricks here now?
I wish I could pick up a few tricks from Prost and put him in a couple of my stints. That'd be the best trick of all, wouldn't it?
You know, we talk about the Grand Prix of San Marino. Our viewers may not know what San Marino is or where San Marino is. It's a small republic 50 miles from here. It's the smallest and the oldest republic in the world. It's only 23 square miles, and its principal source of income is selling postage stamps that are never put on letters. And an honorary citizen of the Republic of San Marino happens to be our own Abraham Lincoln, a bust of whom reposes in the town square. Population around 15,000 there. And it's an excuse for you to have another Grand Prix in Italy.
That's really what it's all about, and we see Alain Prost starting to make his mark on this race, making that beautiful pass on Berger, and you can see the incredible power of those Honda engines. He's now about to dispose of Patrese as they go around the Tamburello, and he'll probably do the same thing to him in the Tosa, but it'll be much easier because the McLaren is much quicker than the normally aspirated car, as you can see from that shot there.
Patrese gave him room. It's interesting. These poor guys in the normally aspirated cars on the high-speed section of the course must be very frustrated.
They're almost 10 miles an hour slower. Well, I say almost. They are 10 miles an hour slower, which is obviously a huge lifetime in a Formula One car.
Well, the fuel allotment that prevails for the turbos does not prevail for these free-breathing, normally aspirated cars, and they can carry as much fuel as they want. So they have that distinct. They don't have to worry about conserving fuel as the turbo drivers do. And I would think that before this race is over, we're going to see some of the turbo cars slow down.
Well, of course, Berger isn't about to slow down now in front of a home crowd, home for Ferrari, that is, as they come into the Variante Alta. That's the high chicane. It's a tricky little second gear corner. Now we come to what used to be an incredibly daunting part. You'll see as they go under that Marlborough Bridge, that bridge used to be the same width as the track. They've just given them a lot more runoff area now, but it used to look pretty scary, I tell you, when you approached that at about 160 miles an hour downhill through that narrow bridge.
That was threading the needle. That bridge has been doubled in the width, and whether it's for safety's sake or for bigger sponsor advertising, I don't know.
Well, you get it along the banner, but it's a lot safer too because it gives them some runoff area on that downhill stretch.
Ayrton Senna out in front, out of the picture, is built a 6.43 second lead over Nelson Piquet. Patrese is third, and Alain Prost is now fourth. Berger is fifth, and Alessandro Nannini is sixth. Those are the point positions in Formula One. Only the first six finishers earn points towards the world driving title. And there's Patrese. Oh, how about that?
Well, he gave him room to start with. It didn't capitalize on it, so he shut the door again. Berger, no doubt, being a little bit upset at that.
Okay, up the hill they go, and out of sight as the crowd cheers them going by. We'll be back with more of the Grand Prix after these messages. The Grand Prix of San Marino at the Republic of San Marino Grand Prix. It's Ayrton Senna with an 8-second lead over fast-closing Alain Prost. His teammate has passed Nelson Piquet to move to second. Piquet now holds third. Ricardo Patrese is in fourth position, and Alessandro Nannini is fifth. And Gerhard Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari is 6th place. And Mr. Senna now is going to have to keep his eye on his mirrors. We're going to go back and show you a replay of a little bit of action that took place while we're away. Interesting racing here. Here is a Ferrari of Gerhard Berger on the Kelly Outrun on the outside being pushed out on the bumps by one of the Benetton Fords. It looks like it might be Terry Boots in there. That's some of the vagaries of racing. Will they talk to one another after the race about that, David?
I doubt it very much. It's just one of those things that happens.
Okay, so right now the action is Alain Prost trying to chop down the lead held by Ayrton Senna, and he has reduced that to less than 8 seconds. It's 7.88 seconds now, with 9 laps into this contest. And everyone has got their stopwatches out. 26 cars took the starting field. There were 4 cars that didn't make it, unfortunately. 26 is the limit of the number of starters here. Oscar Larawi didn't make it, and the 2 Team Ligier cars with Stefan Johansson and René Arnoux failed to make it.
Well, that's very
and
sad.
Oscar Larawi, the newcomer from Argentina.
That's very sad, really, because René Arnoux has been on the pole here twice. Stefan Johansson, of course, drove for McLaren last year. Neither of those drivers made this race, which is looking pretty tough here for 3rd spot between Riccardo Patrese leading Nannini there. 2 Italians, followed by an Italian car, Ferrari, driven by an Austrian. And Nannini has another go at the inside of Patrese. But these 2 guys will be trying really hard in front of this huge crowd. And it's also a very ingenious crowd. My wife went for a walk around the area before the race, and she said there's people that actually got mountaineer grappling irons here to climb the walls that surround this property. They've climbed on these grappling irons, they put great big irons over the wall and planks on the top, and they're sitting absolutely anywhere and everywhere they can to watch this race. They're so keen on it here in Italy.
It's a great crowd. As we said, the population of Imola is about 65,000, and they say the attendance here today is over 100,000. One of the reasons is that there's 9 Italian drivers in the race. There are 4 from France, 4 from Great Britain, 3 from Brazil, 2 from Spain, and 1 each from Austria, Japan, Belgium, and the United States. As far as the field goes, there's 9 turbo cars, and the rest, 17, are normally aspirated.
Patrese put a wheel off there at the Rivazza. Rivazza's a corner that Mario Andretti always said was one of those corners, the expression he used we obviously can't use today, but it is a pretty tough corner. There we see the 2 cars for 4th, Patrese and Nannini, winding in Nelson Piquet in the Honda engine Camel Lotus. They're definitely taking time away from him.
That's interesting that turbo car can't pull away from those normally aspirated cars.
One of the things that's happening too, we're not seeing it just at the moment, is that Prost is catching up with his teammate Senna, but we wonder how hard he's having to drive to do that, which of course could turn around and bite him later on in the race if he uses up too much fuel.
Now here we have the 2 Italians, Patrese and Nannini trying on the outside. It's the same move that we saw here a few laps ago, but didn't work this time.
Didn't work that time. That's too evenly matched. I think the McLaren had a lot more horsepower up that hill than the Ferrari.
Well, they use all the racetrack here, David, don't they?
They certainly do. This is the Piratella. I remember going through this corner about 4 years ago in a Porsche, and a wheel rolled by me, and I thought, oh dear, someone's lost the wheel, and suddenly realized when the car flopped down whose wheel it was. This is also a real tricky complex at the bottom of the hill there, and a steep uphill bit here now as we come to the upper chicane under that Kronenberg Bridge.
Well, now Alain Prost has shaved a half second off of Senna's lead. He's got it down to 7.5 seconds after 10 laps. Piquet still lies 3rd. Patrese is 4th, and Nannini is 5th. With Berger in 6th position. Behind the top 6, Terry Boutsen, the Belgian driver in the Benetton, is in 7th place. Nigel Mansell is 8th. Eddie Cheever 9th, and Philippe Strepp in the new AGS car is 10th. And all of those drivers, with all of them are, with the exception of Cheever, are in normally aspirated cars. Cheever's Arrows being one of the turbocharged cars.
Thierry Boutsen actually is making ground up. He was running in about 11th. He's passed quite a few cars to come up there to 7th spot. Now, of course, Nelson Piquet, I'll be looking in his mirrors and seeing these 2, Patrese and Nannini, dusting it up. And, of course, he likes nothing better than to see that, because as long as these 2 are racing absolutely neck and neck, obviously they're getting in each other's way. There's Patrese doing a lot of blocking, and, of course, that's costing him time.
Is that sporting, David?
It's very, very unsporting, but, of course, I mean...
Well, this is
now, here we go. Nannini having a go on the inside there. That blocking is something that's creeping into the sport, and I don't like it, because It really is the sort of thing that you just never know what the guy's going to do. And it's one of those things that's coming in. I'm not very keen on it myself, but this is a tremendous race. And obviously we're seeing so much of it because it's coming from Italian TV, and these are two of the top Italians in the race. Nannini really making good this year with his first really good Formula One drive.
You know, here's my pick to win the race. What kind of top speeds, David, are we seeing here on the circuit now?
Well, the normally aspirated cars are reaching about 180, and the two McLarens in particular are reaching 190, 191. It's a bit slower than last year because, as you know, they've taken some horsepower away.
You know, in American racing and stock car racing, a driver pull up behind the fellow in front of him and give him a little nudge with the bumper, but these are too fragile for that, aren't they?
Well, they're a bit fragile, and of course it's very difficult to judge it, right? It's difficult to get up to the guy. Now, Nannini really needs to make these next three corners, that right-hand sweep, the left-hand, this left and right, these are the corners he really wants to get off right, because he wants to draft Patrese around this next very fast section and try and get him into that Tosa, the next corner.
Well,
unfortunately, of course, if Patrese is going to block like he did last time, he's going to find that very difficult. He's not close enough this lap.
There's never been any official reprimands given for blocking, have there, David?
No, I don't think so. But this is the corner where most of the overtaking goes on here. But it looks to me as if Patrese's car, the lead car there, is slightly better on the exit of that corner.
Well, that's a Judd engine, and Nannini is in a car that has one of the two new DFR Fords. This is the most advanced Cosworth engine. None of the other Ford engine cars have this particular power plant, and this is the prototype of Ford's next year's Formula One power plant when the turbos will be banned. Ford is quite pleased with the way this prototype is running, and Benetton, the two Benetton cars, have the exclusive on this engine for this season.
And there you see Berger at the back, and just coming to view behind him we saw Thierry Boutsen, who's really making ground up.
Okay, so we've got some really good racing going here. As they go over the hump, we'll be back for more of the Republic of San Marino Grand Prix at Imola in a moment. Wheel to wheel and hub to hub between Alessandro Nannini and Riccardo Patrese, two sons of sunny Italy fighting for fourth position in this San Marino Grand Prix as Brazilian Ayrton Senna leads Frenchman Alain Prost and Brazilian Nelson Piquet up front.
Well, of course, all that boys playing with toys has allowed this man, Thierry Boutsen, to wind them both in at an alarming rate, and of course is keeping them away from their real target, which should be Nelson Piquet in the Camel Lotus up there in front of them. Patrese is spending so much time blocking that he's really not getting on with the job in hand, and with a bit of luck here for Thierry, he'll slip by them both while they're locked in a death struggle. He'll whip round the outside of both of them.
Patrese will look in his mirror and think he's got double vision with those two Benettons there. How about the paint jobs on those? You know the Italians are great for wild colors, but the paint jobs on those Benettons are something that every color in the rainbow's on those cars in one place or another.
Well, when you're a fashion designer like Benetton, I assume your cars should at least look fashionable.
I wonder if Nannini will move over and let Boutsen have a crack at Patrese.
I doubt it, not in front of an Italian crowd, but I don't think he'll have to, because I think they'll both be concentrating on each other so much that old Thierry will be able to slip up on them both. Back in the back of the picture there, we've just caught a glimpse then of Nigel Mansell, also making up ground here and about to try and dispose of Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari.
All right, the top six: Senna, Prost, Piquet, Patrese, Nannini, and Boutsen. Behind them is Gerhard Berger in 7th place, Nigel Mansell in 8th, Eddie Cheever is 9th, Philippe Stretz is 10th, Derek Warwick, Michele Alboreto, Satoru Nakajima, Gabriele Tarquini, the Spaniard Luis Perez Sala, Yannick Dalmas, Mauricio Bugelman, Jonathan Palmer, Alex Cathy, and Adrian Campos are the way they're running in the competition now.
Alboreto must be incredibly disappointed at the way his car has gone all weekend, and of course especially today, an Italian and a Ferrari in racing on Italian soil. I mean, it'll be really slitting wrist time when he gets home tonight. Right. He won't be a happy boy at all. Very disappointing for him.
He's back in 12th place right now. And here we have the only real exciting plan. Boutsen gets a wheel off the circuit there, making that left-hander.
Trying hard to catch up with those two who are scrapping fiercely for that 4th position.
Look what that cost him there, about 10 car lengths.
Yeah, it definitely will upset his balance for a few yards, and well, as you can see what it cost him right there. And right behind him now is Nigel Mansell. Right.
Patrese has pulled to within 2 seconds of Piquet now.
and right behind them, while they're all screwing around with each other, has allowed actual Nigel Mansell to get right there. So now, of course, Thierry Boutsen has got to be watching his mirror as well as watching the two guys in front of him.
He's the meat in the sandwich, and of course the battle is also between the engine manufacturers, Ford and Judd. Judd is a Honda-based unit. Honda is beginning to pay some attention to those engines now because of their possible interest in Indianapolis. There's Patrese, Piquet up front. Okay, let's have another look at how Terry Boutsen found out how rough the grass is here. He's the third car coming off. He goes wide, gets on, and now out in the grass. Not how smoothly he handles it. It was a nice job of recovery there. Could have spun, couldn't he?
I tell you what, that makes an awful noise when you do that. When the wheels drop over the backside of the curb, that means the chassis and the bodywork drag along the top of the curb. It makes a horrible, sickening noise, I can tell you that. And, of course, it's liable to knock things off.
I was going to ask you, does it affect the performance of the car?
Oh, it can break it badly, yeah. If it breaks the undertray on these cars, of course, it's disaster, because they rely on the undertray so much for ground effect and downforce that if you spoil it, in fact, it does seem to put him rather off his stride.
You know, these cars are really closely bunched. There's the Elcron Lola. I can't remember a Grand Prix where we've had so many cars in one TV shot. Here, look at this. 6 of them right there coming around. This is really great racing.
That Elcron Lola's going to get right in the way of Thierry Boutsen there, which allows Nigel to get right within striking distance.
Yeah.
I think Boutsen's car, after that off-road excursion, definitely seems to have lost out a little bit.
We're at the 1/3 mark. 20 laps have been completed, with Ayrton Senna having led from the start. 31 minutes into the race. Alain Prost is second. Piquet is
overtaking one of the slower cars there. I think that was Madonna in the Eurobrun car, which rather spoilt Nannini's overtaking attempt at that stage.
Well, as I said before, Patrese's got 161 Grand Prix starts. He certainly should know his way around. And Nannini with less than a quarter of them. Talked earlier with, as I mentioned before, some of our drivers, including Alessandro Nannini, the dogged pursuer of Riccardo Patrese, about how important it is to run well at Imola.
I think my car, as I've seen it with the rain in Imola, is very fast, and you haven't a lot of problem for go very quickly, because when you go in the third, fourth gear, you have a good aerodynamic. Always you go flat, also with the rain. When the circuit is more dry, the last 10 minutes is just a little more dry, and you have some problem.
Well, Alessandro Nannini on racing here at Imola. And now Ayrton Senna has apparently stepped up the tempo. He's pulled away from Alain Prost. Owns almost a 9-second lead. We haven't seen him all day. Our Italian directors here like Patrese and Nannini better than Senna and Prost.
Well, they are obviously a better race.
Look here.
And Nannini's right on the outside as they go through the Villeneuve curve, a difficult place. And, of course, Patrese just blocks the door there. Patrese really is making life extremely difficult for Nannini.
One missed gear shift here could change things, couldn't it?
This group that we see here, this group of 4 cars, this, of course, is what the authorities are trying to aim at in taking away the turbocharged engines, have more engines that are more equally horsepowered, and obviously next year there will be no turbo engines at all, and that's the whole idea. To get close racing like this is the whole idea, and it seems to be working with these normally aspirated cars.
That's called the NASCAR method.
The NASCAR method.
Okay, now let's go down to the pits and our colleague John Visignano.
With me is Lee Gogg, the International Motorsports Manager from Goodyear. Lee, what's the situation on the tires here on this circuit at the moment? Are you planning pit stops?
No, not unless it rains. There's no pit stop planned. The less power this year means a lot less wheel spin than normal, so there's no pit stop planned.
Now, some drivers say that they need a softer tire then. I mean, are the tires hard enough to go the distance? That means that they're actually slower?
No, I don't think they're slower, but they could be faster if we had something softer. I think that's something we'll have to work towards.
So again, it's that fine line between a soft compound goes faster, come into the pits, or go with a harder compound and let it run the distance. Back to...
Okay, it's interesting, David, that the pole speed was slower this year than last year, and last year was slower than the year before. We're not near the record in qualifying.
Well, of course, that's part of the inexorable process of slowing these cars down, and the idea of slowing them down, of course, is to try and make them a bit cheaper. And, yeah, we've seen a 2-second drop in the speeds this year, because last year they ran another 150 to 200 horsepower than this year. But that group there is really tightly fighting it out, but I don't quite know how the two Benetton cars are going to get round Patrese, and meanwhile, of course, coming to join them is Nigel Mansell.
Well, you know, of all those three drivers that we can see in front, the fourth one, Nigel Mansell, he really is the most aggressive when it comes to street fighting and so forth, and if that Judd Williams car can get up there, I think we're going to see some interesting wheel-to-wheel competition.
These three seem to be able to hold their distance on Mansell. Thierry Boutsen obviously had a bit of a setback when he put a wheel over that curve. It sort of put him off his stroke for a lap or two, but he's back in stride now, and he's right up with his teammate Nannini, and he's going to be difficult to know quite how to get around Nannini when Nannini is concentrating so hard on the car in front of him.
Well, Piquet has pulled a little bit away, or rather Patrese pulled a little bit away from Nannini. Piquet, incidentally, is now a good ways behind Prost, who has fallen 8.3 seconds behind Senna. And now here we have two Italians, a Belgian, and an Englishman. Those four cars in the shot right there.
Well, with, of course, Prost being, they call it the professor in racing, he thinks he drives with his head tremendously. He realizes he's at a terrible disadvantage, and having won the first race, of course, to come second here would be just absolutely fine as far as he's concerned. And there's Nannini, makes the pass, and we'll be back with Paul in an incredible race.
We'll be back for more of this exciting race in a moment. On the pass made by Alessandro Nannini of Riccardo Patrese. We'll have that in just a moment here at the Grand Prix of the Republic of San Marino at the Autodromo Dino Ferrari. Here it is.
Well, he passed into the classic place, into the Tosa, sold him a dummy, got down the inside, and Patrese wasn't quite quick enough to do his usual blocking, and Nannini was through, and I suspect that having got through, he'll do a job on him. And there we see there how Buttons caught up with Nelson Piquet.
Well, it seems to have taken the starch out of Patrese, because since then, Thierry Boutsen got by him, and so did Nigel Mansell.
I think he was concentrating so much on his mirrors and blocking people, and he really wasn't quite up to speed, that now he can concentrate on driving. He's actually going a bit slower.
Well, on the 24th lap of this race, Alain Prost, chasing leader Ayrton Senna, cut a 1:32.116 lap for the fastest lap so far of the race today. I haven't been to an auto race in a long time where I have not seen the leader in such a long period of time.
Well, I don't think we're missing much. He's having a pretty easy run out there, and these are the guys that are really putting on the display this afternoon. And you can see now why I was saying earlier that Nelson Piquet would be looking in his mirror, those two bashing their brains out and being very relieved, because look, in 2 laps, he's got Nannini breathing right down his neck, and he's about to administer the old coup de grace with a Honda engine car.
Now here we're going to find out if what they say about the normally aspirated cars, they're supposedly more nimble in the difficult corners than the turbo cars. We can find out. You can't really pass in those turns, can you, David?
You can't pass in the turn. All you can do is make up ground in those turns to try and pass into the next braking area. The only way you can pass in one of those turns is immediately coming out of it right at the beginning with the extra quick response of the normally aspirated engine. He's obviously quicker through that sweeping section there.
They say the turbo lag that prevailed for so many years with the turbo cars is a thing of the past. They're on the main straightaway.
It's pretty well gone. I mean, they're so high-tech now that the turbo lag is almost non-existent. Yeah. But Thierry Boutsen said to me today, you know, how wonderful it was to drive a normally aspirated car because there's no turbo lag. And really, the turbo lag was so little before anyway.
Well, there you can see after a long straightaway, Piquet has pulled away from Nannini thanks to the turbocharger. Now here they come into the corners, and there's Nannini right back on his backside.
Well, of course, the one thing you must remember this year is that the turbo cars weigh 100 pounds more than the non-turbo cars. And as the race wears on, and they all use their fuel up, that 100 pounds gets better and better and better for the non-turbo cars, so they can obviously brake later, and they are more nimble. It'll be quick down this little slope here.
Well, you know, I've got an invested interest here. I picked Nannini to win. He's only in 4th place, and we're coming up on the halfway mark. Come on, Alessandro, let's get it on.
Well, he's trying all he can. I don't think he can do much better. He's trying for you, Chris, there's no doubt about it. Thierry Boutsen seems to be settling station behind these two, and they both pulled away now from Nigel Mansell. I think Nannini will get, if he gets a clear run at him through the next set of curves, and a good run round the Tamborelli, I think he'll do it next time at the Tosa. He might even try him at the chicane just before the pits, but it's difficult to overtake there. They're going to be slowed down by one of the Tyrrell cars there.
Yeah, I think that's William Bailey in his very first Grand Prix.
Now that's given him a bit of a breather because it's brought Piquet down to speed.
Exactly.
Which has put Nannini right on Piquet's tail as they go onto the Spa strip. Piquet will pull out a bit here because of his turbo power. Given Nannini.
Yeah, but he didn't get by Bailey there, so he has to wait now.
Now that's really screwed him up because that's the fastest score on the track.
And here comes Piquet on the outside, dragging Nannini right with him.
He's a done man.
How about this?
No, he's not.
Oh, talk about iron will. Oh, ho, ho.
Right.
I tell you something, Mr. Nannini is gaining a presence in Formula One racing.
I tell you, there'll be a lot of people talking to Julian Bailey after this race, too. Everywhere he jumped, they digged. I mean, he was just in the way of everybody in every corner. Well, and that was a bit of bravery going on there, wasn't it? Those wheels slotted into each other.
And I got to hand to Mr. Piquet, that was an unflinching set of circumstances there on the part of both men.
Certainly was.
As we approach the halfway mark, Ayrton Senna leads by 9.981 seconds over Alain Prost. The featureless front of this event, but oh, what excitement deep in the pack. And here's Nannini trying again to get by Nelson Piquet.
Piquet now doing a bit of judicious blocking, although you will see that he didn't really block in quite the same way. He did hold his line. He didn't just jog all over the track. And he does have just a little bit more horsepower than these other two cars, which makes life a lot simpler. Behind this group, we've got Nelson Piquet running in 3rd, 4th is Nannini, and 5th is Boutsen, all of whom we can see on the picture. 6th is Mansell, 7th is now Patrese, Berger's dropped to 8th. How disappointing for Ferrari today. Cheever's 9th, Streff, Alboreto, awful Ferrari again. Derek Warwick, Nakajima in the 2nd Lotus. Gabriele Tarquini, who's a lap down now. Luis Sala, Yannick Dalmas, Maurizio Gugelmin from Brazil. Jonathan Palmer, Alessandro Campos, and Julian Bailey, who seems to be running large.
Well, the last turbo car is Nakajima in 13th place. Good ways down from the leader. And he had some great straightaway speeds in the practice.
He did actually turn in some quite good qualifying times, but he doesn't seem to be doing quite so well in the race. This is that Acqua Minerale section. It's a rather picturesque name. There must be some wells down there to the bottom of this hill here.
It's a spa if you want to go take a bath.
Spa. Like a spa. Leamington Spa. And here we see them going around that high chicane where we saw Thierry put a wheel over the edge a few laps back. And they're both trying to set up old Nelson Piquet for the old Coupe de Grace here. In fact, Thierry looks like he's setting up Nannini for the Coupe de Grace.
Well, our leader, Ayrton Senna, is on his 30th lap, which marks the halfway point of today's Grand Prix here at this beautiful Dino Ferrari Autodrome. This track is quite old. It was first used for small events in 1950. The lower road, the part that runs past the start-finish line that you see right now, that was a road that connected two little villages here and was used as part of the Mille Miglia in its heyday. And the upper road was hooked to this in bits and pieces later on. And Mario Andretti, whom I called before coming over here, told me that this is one of the finest road circuits in all the world. And I asked him which part of it he remembers most, and he says the Rivazza, which is a sharp left-right turn just before you come into the start-finish line section. And he said that separates the men from the boys. I guess every track has one of those.
That's where they've widened that bridge to try and make the approach better. And I'm sure it's not quite as exciting as it was just a few years back, but still a pretty hair-raising piece of racetrack.
You know, there's another factor about this area here, the Emilia-Romagna area. What it's noted for is its gastronomic excellence. And in all of my travels, I don't think I've ever had a 6-pound Grand Prix weekend as I've had here. Okay, here at the Autodromo Dino Ferrari, the Grand Prix of San Marino. We'll be back with more after these important messages. Hey, Senna now, 11.1 seconds ahead of Prost, and what a Sunday drive he's having. Piquet still third, Nannini fourth, Boutsen fifth, Mansell sixth. They're the point getters right now, and this is heavy traffic at the turn.
And there we see catching up with one of the Minardis. I think that's what it is. I can't see quite right. And that's allowed Thierry to catch up with Nannini, and right behind them now is Nigel Mansell. So there we see a really good picture of all the cars, including that lapped car, or the car they're trying to put a lap on. Depends how cooperative he... Oh, Christ! Now that
suddenly got the message.
Oh, he sure did.
It's the Spanish, all Spanish team there. Luis Perez Sala and Adrian Campos. The numbers on the Minardi cars are hidden inside the rear wheels.
Yes, they're written. It's so hard to know what to do when you're on one of the slower cars, but really you just have to watch the mirror like an absolute hawk and stay out of the way. And of course, the worst thing you can do is what he just did, try and help. Because having committed himself and made Nelson commit to one side, he then thought, I'll help, and he moved out of the way, by which time Nelson was already headed that way. And it's the simplest and the most common mistake that people make, is they try and help. But of course, they don't help till it's too late. Oh, someone locked a brake there. It was old Thierry Boutsen locked a brake coming into the chicane. And old Nige is going to go down inside.
Right? Pushing wide there. You know, this has been an interesting race. We're in the second half of the race, and no one seems to have dropped out yet, David.
No, but that was a tremendous pass there by Nigel Mansell over Thierry Boutsen, who locked up going into that top chicane, and Nigel took advantage, just slowed him up as he went in there, and of course he took advantage. And that's given Nannini and Nelson a bit of a break.
That's right, and Nannini is moving again on Nelson Piquet, as Nigel Mansell now has some fresh air to look at, see if he can close in. What about the drafting, David, coming up that straightaway, the slipstreaming?
Well,
how much of a pull is it?
Well, it's quite a good pull, really. You notice that people use it all the time, and they drop right in behind. Of course, that's one of the things they do to the slower cars. They drop in behind them to use their draft, and of course that confuses the slower cars.
Well, here we have the widest interval now in this group we've seen for many years. Okay, let's go back. We'll watch Nigel Mansell improve his position there to the skirmish here. Thierry got outside, and Mansell taking immediate advantage of the situation, pulling along, getting left front wheel out on the grass, but staying with it. Staying with it all the way.
Thierry
coming back out and
for him at all.
And moving Terry a little bit towards the right.
Well, Thierry didn't make that easy for Nigel, but Nigel stuck to his gun and put a wheel on the grass and squeezed his way through. But I think that Boutsen is actually slightly quicker today than Nigel. Obviously, he'll have another go at getting that position back.
Nigel Mansell chews nails and spits rust, is the way I see it in a race car.
He made well, I don't know. These quaint people from Birmingham do all sorts of funny things. Nelson Piquet not giving up that third spot without a struggle either. Nannini trying everything he knows to get around him, but the turbo Camel Lotus there's got just a little bit more horsepower, and it does make passing very, very difficult.
You know, with all the talk about fuel consumption, you would think that Senna and Prost would be taking it a little bit easier. Certainly Senna. Senna has almost a 10-second lead on Prost, and together they have almost a 40-second lead on third-place Nelson Piquet.
Well, of course, as far as we know, they may be taking it easy. I mean, this may be their idea of an easy race, which would show down the theory that they've got bad fuel consumption problems.
Okay, so it's Ayrton Senna leading, Alain Prost, Nelson Piquet, Alessandro Nannini, Nigel Mansell, and Thierry Boutsen in the top six. We'll be back for more in a moment.
Financial services, asset management tools for a brave new world. There's a continuous struggle in Formula One to make the cars as safe as possible. This year in 1988, those teams with fresh new chassis, like the Tyrrell organization, the driver's feet must be behind a center line drawn between the front axles. Now what this does is create more crushability space up front in case of a front-end collision that will protect the driver's legs. Now this has actually moved the driver back into the chassis, and in Rio, the team management found out that it actually affects the handling of the car due to less weight on the front suspension. So the Tyrrell organization is busy putting more weight up front to try and decrease understeer. Even safety in Formula One can affect handling.
39 laps into this 60-lap Grand Prix of the Republic of San Marino. Ayrton Senna leads, Alain Prost, Nelson Piquet is third, but the challenger, Alessandro Nannini, had spun, got his car in gear, got going again. He fell to...
Thank you, Chris. Earlier you were talking about the McLaren team. Just behind me, the Marlboro people there in the shirt. Ron Dennis leading that pack of merry men up there at the moment. And the fuel consumption. We've been talking about this all weekend. Now remember that that car has a transponder in it, and every time they go by this pit position, it will give a reading of exactly how many liters are in that tank. And therefore they can tell both Prost and Senna to either slow down or go ahead and try and increase their already fabulous lead. Now the situation still is up to the driver. He has the same type of equipment inside the cockpit. David, when you're that far ahead, is it tough to keep your concentration even on a fast circuit like this, watching the gauges, but still no one pushing those leaders?
Well, it's one of those things when you're told to ease up in a race, you have to ease up in a very specific manner that you don't lose concentration. Obviously, Senna's concentration will be put pretty much to the test here because he's passing a lot of slow cars all the time. And of course, he's always got somebody to watch out for. But it is something you have to be careful when you ease off. You don't ease off too much.
Here's Piquet leading Mansell. You know what John Bizignano was talking about was telemetry, and that's exactly what the astronauts were using to send their data back from the satellite when they went to the moon. It's come to Formula One, and it's not cheap.
It is not cheap, and of course not only are they getting it back in the pits, but the driver himself has a perfect readout every lap of how much fuel he's got left and how many theoretical laps he's got left. So everybody's very, very full of information all the time. Everybody's well informed, so one can only assume those McLarens are in good shape, otherwise they would have slowed up by now.
Boutsen is trailing Mansell in fourth place rather closely. Okay, the race continues on here in Imola, Italy for the Republic of San Marino Grand Prix. And we'll be back for more after these messages. 44 laps into the competition, and on lap 39, Alain Prost set the fastest lap. Again, a minute 30.6 in his quest to catch up to Ayrton Senna. He's cut that lead now, was over 10 seconds before. Prost is now 7.2 seconds behind, and I guess that they are starting to slow down. And here, Nigel Mansell stops at the pits. The first time we've seen any pit action today, particularly by a front runner getting out of the car. John Bizignano, what's going on?
Chris, there's a little bit of confusion down here. Of course, they're looking into the engine bay as the back body work comes off the car at this moment. The last time Nigel went around, the engine sounded terribly. It sounded like, well, maybe a drop valve or a cracked exhaust. Now, Terry Boutsen is sounding the exact same way at the moment. These normally aspirated cars are going a long distance on a very rough circuit. Maybe these exhaust systems aren't mounted exactly as well as they would like to be, but right now Nigel Mansell is out of the Grand Prix of San Marino.
that's too bad, John. And Ayrton Senna continues to lead Alain Prost, and we've got a 4-car cluster headed up the hill. Piquet is third. Boutsen and Annini and the Benettons are fourth and fifth, and Patrese is sixth. They're the point getters if it finishes this way.
One of the things about the V8 engine, this type of V8 engine, when you enlarge the capacity, as they have this year, to 3.5 and 3 litre, they do tend to vibrate a good bit, and they do braking. One of the things that breaks is the exhaust system, and obviously a 4-cylinder engine does the same sort of thing.
Well, and more of the Grand Prix of San Marino after these commercial messages.
Marlboro people up there, they are very confident. One of the reasons because of that confidence comes from every time that Senna goes by the pits, there is a sending unit in his car that records on a computer exactly how many liters are left in his tanks. And right now they're saying that he has enough fuel to comfortably go the distance. Now it's actually still another backup system in the car that will make the final decision along with what the driver sees. But right now, Ayrton Senna has this race well in hand. There is a little worry over Prost. When he is going by, Prost's engine is very sour. Again, it sounds like some sort of exhaust problem. Same with Boutsen and Patrese. So these last closing laps could be extremely exciting.
Well, at Rio de Janeiro, when Alain Prost took the checkered flag, he pulled the car over to the right side of the track and stopped about 100 feet from the start-finish line. And when it was all over, they found 10 cubic centimeters, about 4 ounces of gasoline in his tank. So that's how much he had left after winning the Grand Prix of Brazil.
Now we see Prost himself catching up with that bunch of guys who've been dueling it out all afternoon for third, fourth, and fifth. Here's Prost in amongst them. That's one of the Minardi cars there. He's about to put a lap down him, or another lap on him.
And Prost has cut Senna's lead now to 7 seconds. It had been as much as 11. And we have 6 laps to go.
I don't think Senna's sweating on top line, though, somehow. They certainly know how to cut it fine. I mean, when Prost jumped out of his car at Rio, as you were saying, he had enough fuel in it to fill an egg cup, and he knew exactly how much he got.
You know that Ayrton Senna, for 1 hour and 22 minutes, never saw another race car until they came in to lap the tail enders. He was out there all alone on this big racetrack. Okay, let John Bizignano, what's there?
Ricardo Patrese into the pits. It looks like a normal tire change. All 4 off. This is very late. A lot of black smoke coming out of the back of the car at the moment. Patrese a little bit frustrated. They're having trouble with that left rear. Patrese very, very much wanting to keep that engine running. Of course, when they do lose the engine, they lose the whole suspension, and down goes the car on the ground. Patrese, a very late pit stop. 4 tires. Will follow the situation from the team management down here, find out exactly why he was called in so late in the race.
Well, Michele Alboreto lying 8th, and Ferrari number 27 is being pushed to a stop. And now it's like some of those championship basketball games. The last 5 minutes becomes the exciting part.
Well, that must be terribly disappointing for Alboreto. Not that he's had much of a weekend anyway. You can see that smoke coming out from the radiator inlet. He's obviously had a nasty engine malfunction.
5 laps to go, and 2 retirements in the last few minutes. Nigel Mansell and Michele Alboreto, and Ricardo Patrese losing ground, stopping for fresh rubber. Will Senna and Prost escape problems and sail home, as it looks as though they might have from the very start. Piquet is 3rd, Boutsen is 4th, Annini is 5th, Berger is 6th, Cheever 7th, Patrese or Nakajima 8th, and Ward 9th.
Well, the normally aspirated Benettons weren't quite able to put it over the turbocharged car of Nelson Piquet. And if they couldn't put it over him, they certainly weren't about to beat these 2 McLaren cars. The McLaren Hondas are the class of the field. Everybody thought they would be, but I think they're going a lot better than most people thought they would at the beginning of the year.
All right, let's go back down pit road, and John Bizignano.
At the moment, we have the Ferrari driver. There's only 1 in the race and 1 here in the pit lane. Michele Alboreto out of the race. We asked if he could speak to us. He said, "John, please, it's just too much of a disappointment." There were actually flames coming from underneath the Ferrari, an awful lot of smoke, oil underneath the Ferrari. It's definitely an engine problem. The gearbox seems to be totally covered in oil. 1 Ferrari down, another one still in the points. Back to you, Chris.
And 4 laps remain in this Grand Prix of the Republic of San Marino. And the mechanical attrition is starting to show here. It's got to be a tough break for either. Factory's only 35 miles. And we'll be back for more of this interesting competition after these commercial messages from our sponsors. And here's Here's Ayrton Senna trying to find his way past some slower cars and less experienced drivers than one of the Minardi drivers, one of the Spaniards. And a few Portuguese words exchanged there as he whizzes by. He had his problems there in that heavy traffic. Race nearing its close. Ayrton Senna with a 9.9-second lead over Alain Prost. The two Marlboro McLaren Honda drivers have lapped the rest of the field. Nelson Piquet is third, a lap down. Fourth place is Thierry Boutsen. Fifth is his teammate Alessandro Nannini in the Ford-engine Benettons. Then Gerhard Berger in a Ferrari. And then Eddie Cheever, the Japanese driver Satoru Nakajima, Derek Warwick, and Ricardo Patrese back on the track in 10th place. Philippe Streff, Luis Sala, Yannick Dalmas, Mauricio Gugelmin, Jonathan Palmer, Adrian Campos, and Philippe Alliot are next in the standings. And now, once again, Ayrton Senna, car 12, has a clear track.
A very clear track. That looked a bit hairy going around that very fast bend. Those two guys were racing amongst themselves, the Minardi and the Eurobrun car of Stefano Medina, and they didn't see him coming. And he was dodging around there trying to get around them, but of course at this stage of the game he's not about to make any rash moves. There you see him going past the USF&G Arrows car of Derek Warwick. He's had a disappointing day because he ran so well at Rio a month ago, and I'm sure he was hoping to get some points here as well.
Well, I guess it's pretty tough in a four-cylinder car. The old BMW engine is called a Megatron now, and it's quite an old power plant by Formula One standards.
But it still gives pretty good horsepower, but obviously nothing seems to be able to hold these McLaren Hondas. Absolutely overpowering. I think that Prost now has lapped everybody as well, up to himself, so there's no way he's about to lap himself, but these two, both cars, have lapped the entire field.
Well, it's really interesting that these cars are absolutely the class of the field here. They were the class of the field in Rio de Janeiro, the class here. The next race is Monte Carlo. You'll be able to see that on ABC. And whether they'll work that good on what drivers refer to as a Mickey Mouse course, we'll have to see. But on the high-speed courses, they really get it done.
I tell you, to be a brave man at this stage to say that the normally aspirated cars are going to come into their own at Monte Carlo. That's where they should do, but I have to wonder. They're just so good here, everywhere. Slow corners, fast corners, and they just seem to, they handle so well. It's not just sheer brute horsepower. They definitely handle, absolutely out-handle everybody else out there.
I wonder if the party line between Senna and Prost will be milk and honey, as we like to call it, after this race, where Mr. Prost had that bad start and was unable to catch his teammate Ayrton Senna despite putting up the fastest lap of the race on several occasions. Oh!
Now that, surely the flag hasn't dropped, has it?
And the race, how about that? The checkered flag has been given, and right away, for the weight reasons, there's no warning here, and they're congratulating one another in the pits on the victory by Ayrton Senna and a second place by Alain Prost. And the Formula One regulations say these cars have to reach a certain minimum weight, and which is why they don't go on a cool-off lap, because the weight of the fuel they use on the cool-off lap is needed there, because some of these cars actually come to the line a pound or two under the minimum weight. We didn't see the starter give the checkered flag, so Team McLaren has done it again with Ayrton Senna of Brazil and Alain Prost of France, 1 and 2, and the rest of the field being flagged down 1 and more laps behind. There they go to the victory podium here at the Grand Prix of the Republic of San Marino. Colorful uniforms on. There's Alain Prost with his helmet off, his curly hair.
Looking pretty cool and calm, as he always does.
Right.
Looks always quite extraordinarily remarkable after getting out of a car after an hour and a half in the heat. And at least Senna has the decency to have sweat in his hair.
The time of the race, for those who keep statistics, 1 hour, 31 minutes, 4.771 seconds. And the interval between Ayrton Senna and second place Alain Prost, 6.79 seconds. See 100,000 strong heads for the exit here at the Autodromo Dino Ferrari. Brazilian Ayrton Senna celebrates his 7th career Grand Prix victory. His teammate Alain Prost, who closed to 2.3 seconds on that last lap, their McLaren Hondas dominating the race. Brazilian Nelson Piquet was 3rd, Belgian Thierry Boutsen 4th, Austrian Gerhard Berger 5th, and Italian Alessandro Nannini 6th. David? What do you think?
Well, what can one say? Then the two McLaren Hondas put an incredible stamp of authority on this race, and I don't see the others being able to improve that much as the year progresses. Boutsen and Nannini did a great job for the Benetton Ford cars, and of course Mansell and Patrese ran very well in their normally aspirated Judd engine Williams, but they weren't really in the hunt to ever win this race. Maybe at Monte Carlo and maybe at Detroit they'll do better, but it doesn't look as if they're going to get within really arm's stretch of those two McLaren Hondas. So if I was in one of the other cars, I'd be a pretty depressed man this Sunday afternoon.
Well, our colleague John Bizignano was in a quiet place today, the pits.
Well, Chris, it was a little quiet relative to tire changes, but I've certainly been joined by a few thousand Italian fans, great fans. This is hallowed ground to them relative to San Marino and their lust for Formula One. The first 6 cars, well, 4 of them were turbocharged. To me, 1988 still looks like a turbocharged season. The normally aspirated engine scored their first points of the year with the 2 Benetton cars. Monaco, yes, that could be a normally aspirated engine, but after that, Mexico City, 6,000 feet up in the air, 100% turbocharged in Mexico.
Well, the excitement today was back in the pack. Certainly wasn't for the lead. And going into Monte Carlo, Frenchman Alain Prost leads the world standings with 15 points. Ayrton Senna, winner today, is second with 9. And Nelson Piquet of Brazil is third with 8, tied with Austrian Gerhard Berger. Next in the point scale is Belgian Thierry Boutsen with 3 points, tied with Englishman Derek Warwick. And 6 is Michele Alboreto with 2. Italian Alessandro Nannini next with 1. And Japanese driver Satoru Nakajima 1 point. This is Chris Economaki saying so long for David Hobbs and John Bizignano from San Remo.
ESPN Speed World, Formula One coverage of the Grand Prix of San Marino. Brought to you by BF Goodrich TAs and the new all-weather Comp TA. By Acura Legend and Integra.